You're talking to her, the conversation is flowing, but a nagging question lingers. Is she truly feeling it? Stop second-guessing. This video dives deep into the subtle, often unconscious signals women give off when they're attracted, from fleeting glances to shifts in their posture. Learn to read these genuine, overlooked cues and finally understand what she's really telling you. When a woman desires someone, she rarely says it out loud. She won't confess it in words, and she won't hand it over in obvious actions. Instead, her eyes tell the truth long before she ever does. The gaze reveals everything: what she feels, what she hides, what she's drawn to but doesn't want to expose. If you learn to read her eyes, you stop guessing. You stop overthinking. You start understanding the silent language she speaks without even knowing it. Because desire doesn't begin with a touch or a smile or a conversation. It begins with a look. And once you can decode that look, you'll see the signals most people miss every day. Sign 1. The prolonged micropause. The prolonged micropause is one of the most misunderstood yet powerful signals in female psychology. Because it is not loud, obvious, or dramatic. It is subtle. It happens in fractions of a second, and that is precisely what makes it real. Words can be chosen. Smiles can be forced. Behaviors can be rehearsed. But a micropause is instinctive. It is driven by the subconscious, not the conscious mind. When she looks at someone and her eyes linger just a heartbeat longer than necessary, that moment becomes a confession her body makes long before she would ever admit anything out loud. This pause reveals what she's trying to understand about what she feels. It's the internal curiosity her mind hasn't fully processed yet, but her instincts already have. The truth is, attraction shows itself early, faster than she can analyze or rationalize. That extra fraction of a second, that subtle hesitation before she looks away, it's not confusion. It's recognition. A recognition of energy, presence, and emotional pull. It's her mind stopping just long enough to gather information, to observe, to take in the details that triggered her interest in the first place. The micropause doesn't happen with everyone. Women scan their environment constantly, but their eyes move in quick, efficient patterns. When she has no emotional or instinctual reaction to someone, her gaze slides past like it would slide past a chair, a wall, or a random stranger. But when there is even a spark of desire or curiosity, that autopilot breaks for a fraction of a moment. Her brain slows her eyes down. That pause is the body's way of saying, "Pay attention. This one matters." Desire always begins as attention, and attention always begins with a pause. Most people expect desire to show itself in big gestures: flirting, smiling, touching, laughing. But the truth is that desire doesn't start loudly. It starts quietly. It starts in her eyes. It starts in the moments where she doesn't even know she has given anything away. A micropause is not something she consciously prepares or tries to control. It slips out. And that's why it's significant. The subconscious doesn't lie the way the conscious mind does. It doesn't filter. It doesn't protect. It reveals. When she pauses on someone, she's scanning details that only instincts understand. She's looking at presence, confidence, posture, energy. She's checking for signals of strength, certainty, or emotional stability. She's trying to understand why she felt something before she even knows what that something is. Even if she tries to hide her reaction afterward, by looking away too quickly, by acting indifferent, by pretending she wasn't paying attention, the micropause already exposed the truth. This pause is also an assessment. Attraction is not blind. It is selective. During that extra second, she's not just admiring appearance, she's evaluating aura, grounding, calmness, self-possession. She's looking for clues about character and intention. The pause is not just about what she sees, it's about what she senses. Women read details rapidly, faster than most people realize. They pick up small cues, the way someone holds themselves, the way they take up space without forcing it, the way they move with quiet certainty. The micropause is her brain capturing all of this in a tiny, unplanned moment. This is also why the pause holds more weight than any words she could speak. A woman can say she's not interested and still give the pause. She can pretend she's focused on something else, yet her eyes delay just long enough to show the truth. She can act distant, polite, or even dismissive, but the body doesn't follow the script. That fraction of a second is the real message. That pause carries more honesty than a conversation. It's also important to understand that the micropause is not a sign of certainty. It is a sign of possibility. It's not a declaration of desire, it's the precursor to desire. It's the doorway, the opening, the moment her instincts step forward before her mind catches up. It's the first spark that happens before she even decides whether to pursue it, explore it, or ignore it. The pause doesn't guarantee action, but it always guarantees interest. And interest is the seed from which everything else grows. The prolonged micropause also reveals comfort. A woman does not pause on someone who makes her uneasy or unsafe. Her eyes move quickly past anything that feels threatening, unpredictable, or unstable. But when she pauses, it means she feels safe enough to observe, safe enough to look closer, safe enough to stay for that extra heartbeat. Desire cannot exist without a sense of safety first. The pause is the indicator that her instincts feel both drawn and secure. Another layer of the micropause is emotional curiosity. Women don't just feel attraction physically, they feel it emotionally and mentally. When she pauses, she's not just looking at someone's face. She's looking at their energy. What she feels in that moment determines everything. Does this person feel calm? Does this person feel grounded? Does this person feel present? The pause is her way of collecting the emotional data that determines whether she will invest more attention. Yet the most powerful part of the micropause is how unintentional it is. She is not trying to send a signal. She is not trying to flirt. She is not trying to communicate anything. The pause is simply her instincts taking control for a moment. And instincts always reveal more than words do. That's why the micropause is one of the purest signs of desire. It is raw, unfiltered, honest. It appears before she can hide it. It disappears before she even understands why it happened. But in that brief second, everything becomes clear. When you learn to notice the micropause, you begin to understand female psychology at a deeper level. You stop guessing and start observing. You stop chasing words and start reading truth. The eyes reveal what the mind tries to bury, and the prolonged micropause is the first unspoken sign that her desire has already begun to surface. Sign 2. The dilated, softened gaze. The dilated, softened gaze is one of the clearest biological and psychological markers of desire, yet it's also one of the most overlooked. People pay attention to smiles, posture, or tone of voice, but they forget the one thing a woman cannot consciously control: the way her eyes react when she feels drawn to someone. Her gaze is not just a way of looking, it is a physiological confession. Desire does not begin with words or actions. It begins with the eyes adjusting themselves to the presence that affects her. When her pupils widen and her expression softens, that shift is not random. It's instinctive. It's ancient. It's the body responding before the mind fully understands what it's responding to. Dilated pupils are one of the oldest, most primal signs of attraction in human biology. They widen when she sees something she wants, something she is curious about, something that pulls her in without permission. The widening is automatic. She cannot command it or hide it, no matter how composed she tries to be. It is the nervous system recognizing an emotional or physical stimulus that excites it. It is her body revealing her reaction, even if she remains silent, calm, or guarded on the outside. Her gaze becomes softer because she no longer sees through a purely logical lens. She sees through the lens of emotional interest. A softened gaze does not mean weakness. It means openness. A woman may maintain a sharp, quick, guarded gaze around people she feels nothing for, people she does not trust, or situations where she needs to protect her energy. But when desire is present, her defenses lower automatically. Not dramatically, not foolishly, but subtly. Her eyes relax. Her eyelids soften. Her stare becomes less analytical and more curious. She looks with an energy that says she feels safe enough to observe, safe enough to be drawn in, safe enough to allow a moment of vulnerability through her expression. This softening is one of the earliest indicators that emotional attraction has entered the picture. The fascinating part of this signal is that even if she tries to act indifferent, her eyes betray her. A woman can control her words. She can control her smile. She can control her tone. But the eyes are connected to the limbic system, instinct, emotion, desire, and memory. When she feels something, her gaze will reveal it even if every other part of her works to conceal it. She may look away quickly afterward. She may try to recompose herself. She may even pretend she wasn't looking in the first place. But that initial moment where her gaze softened cannot be undone. It already happened. Her body already told the truth. The dilated, softened gaze also shows a shift in focus. Instead of scanning the room or staying alert to her surroundings, her attention narrows. Her mind tunes out background noise. Her eyes settle with more intention. She's no longer looking at everything. She's looking at one presence. That focus is one of the clearest indicators of desire. Women rarely give sustained or softened attention toward anything they are not emotionally affected by. Their gaze is naturally intuitive and selective. When it softens, it means something has touched her on a deeper, instinctual level. There is also a psychological component behind the softened gaze. When she looks at someone with interest, her mind begins studying details without realizing it. The way someone moves, the way someone speaks, the subtle confidence in their energy. She's observing with curiosity, not caution. The softness in her eyes reflects her internal emotional shift. She is no longer just seeing. She is feeling something through what she sees. The eyes become windows to her emotional state, revealing a mixture of intrigue, comfort, and attraction. Another layer of this gaze is the tension between emotional desire and emotional surrender. When attraction is strong, a woman's gaze becomes heavier, slower, more intentional. She may hold eye contact longer than usual, or she may break it quickly but return with the same softness. The softness isn't a sign of submission, it's a sign of connection. She feels drawn, but she also feels safe enough to allow herself to be drawn. It's a delicate balance between vulnerability and excitement, a balance that is visible only in the subtle language of her eyes. The dilated gaze is also tied to the chemistry of attraction. When she feels excitement or heightened emotional arousal, her nervous system releases signals that make her pupils expand. This biological response enhances vision, but emotionally, it enhances presence. She sees someone not just as a person in her environment, but as a stimulus that triggers an internal reaction. Her eyes widen the same way they would when she sees something beautiful, rare, or emotionally significant. This is why pupil dilation is such a reliable measure of desire. It is purely physical, purely honest. Softened eyes also reveal a temporary lowering of emotional armor. Women often maintain a certain level of emotional guardedness in their daily interactions, especially with people they don't trust or feel connected to. But attraction disarms that guard for a moment. Her eyes soften because her instincts tell her she doesn't need to shield herself. She lets her guard down, not because she's naive, but because something in the presence she's observing feels stable, calm, grounded. Her gaze shifts from defensive to receptive. This shift is subtle but unmistakable. Another powerful aspect of the softened gaze is how quickly it appears and disappears. Sometimes it lasts only a moment, just long enough to expose the truth before her rational mind pulls it back in. Sometimes she holds it longer than she intended, realizing afterward that she revealed more than she wanted to. But in both cases, the softness in her eyes speaks louder than any words she could say. It reveals her inner world, her emotional temperature, her instinctive lean toward the energy she feels drawn to. The dilated, softened gaze is one of the purest, most authentic signals of female desire because it is involuntary. It comes from the oldest part of her emotional wiring. It is not calculated, it is not performed. It is not filtered through social expectations or fear of judgment. It is instinct. It is emotion. It is truth written in the eyes before she has the courage or clarity to speak it. When her gaze softens and her pupils widen, her body is confessing what her lips won't yet say. It's the moment her eyes reveal the desire she's still trying to understand within herself. Sign 3. The look away followed by the quick return. The look away followed by the quick return is one of the most telling patterns in female psychology because it exposes the internal struggle between instinct and self-protection. It is a moment where desire and restraint collide. The eyes reveal interest, the mind tries to recompose, and then instinct pulls the gaze back again. This pattern is not random. It is not a polite gesture or simple curiosity. It is a psychological dance the subconscious performs long before she has the courage or the clarity to fully understand why she keeps looking back. The look away is her guard. The return is her truth. The first look is the spark. It's the moment her instincts recognize something that catches her attention. It's not loud, dramatic, or exaggerated. It's natural. Her eyes land, and for a moment, she is simply observing without overthinking. But when she realizes she has been staring longer than she intended, her mind kicks in. She looks away to regain balance, to hide the reaction, to protect herself from revealing too much too soon. That withdrawal is not rejection. It is emotional caution. It's the part of her that says, "Don't be obvious, stay composed." But the truth is already out. The look away is the shield that rises after her instincts have already taken the lead. The return, however, is the real confession. That quick glance back exposes her internal conflict. Desire pulled her attention once, but returning means her attention wasn't accidental. She didn't just notice something and move on. Something within her wanted to look again. This return is driven by interest, curiosity, and a quiet desire to confirm what she felt in the first moment. It's instinct pulling her gaze back to what made her feel something. She tries to control the impulse, but the subconscious wins. Attraction makes her eyes return even when she tells herself not to. This two-step pattern is powerful because each part reveals something different. The first look shows the spark of interest. The look away shows her awareness of how revealing that moment was. And the quick return shows the depth of that interest. Women rarely look back at anything they feel nothing for. When there is no emotional response, the eyes move on and don't revisit the moment. But when she looks away and then comes back, it means the mind is curious, the emotions are stirred, and the instincts are already invested enough to pull her gaze twice. This behavior is not about shyness. It's not always about confidence either. It is about vulnerability. Looking at someone she feels drawn to is exposing, even if only for a second. It opens a doorway she isn't sure she's ready to step through. So she retreats. She gives herself a moment to internally reset, to check her emotions, to regain the calm she felt slipping in that first glance. But desire doesn't disappear just because she looks away. The pull is still there beneath the surface. And when the gaze returns, it's clear that her instincts refuse to let the moment end. The quick return also shows that she's observing with intention. She is no longer just scanning the room or casually noticing her environment. She is checking back in to confirm what drew her in the first time. She wants to understand her own reaction. She wants to study the energy again. She wants to see if the feeling was real or just a momentary impulse. That return glance carries emotional weight because she is not looking with the eyes of neutrality. She is looking with the eyes of someone who felt something the first time and wants to feel it again. This repeated glance also reveals internal tension. Women are naturally intuitive and emotionally perceptive. When someone affects them, even in the smallest way, they notice it. But they also guard their emotions carefully. They don't give away interest freely, and they rarely signal desire openly unless they feel safe enough to do so. The look away is the safety mechanism. The return is the desire breaking through the safety. It's a tug of war between emotion and self-control, between curiosity and caution, between instinct and awareness. And desire almost always wins at least once, when her eyes come back. Another important layer is that this pattern often happens quickly. Sometimes her eyes return in less than a second. Sometimes she waits a moment, pretending to be focused elsewhere before stealing another glance. The speed doesn't matter as much as the sequence. The sequence itself is the confession. Even if she tries to mask the look by glancing at something near where she looked the first time, the truth is in the rhythm of her eyes. Interest leads. Instinct pulls. Emotion returns. This look-return pattern also reveals that she feels safe enough to be curious. If she felt threatened, uncomfortable, or uninterested, she wouldn't look back. Her gaze would avoid the moment entirely. But returning means she feels a degree of comfort, enough to allow herself the vulnerability of repeating the glance. Just like a softened gaze, the look-return pattern reflects a moment where her internal guards lower long enough for her instincts to take over. She doesn't intend to send a signal, but the signal appears anyway. What makes this sign so powerful is that it appears in both confident and reserved women. Confidence doesn't erase instinct. Even a bold woman will look away when she feels unexpectedly affected, and return because she wants to feel that spark again. A reserved woman may do the same more subtly, but the psychology behind it is identical. The return is not about personality. It's about desire. The look away followed by the quick return is a truth she doesn't speak. It is a silent admission her body makes before her mind has sorted the feelings out. It is the moment where instinct reveals interest, and the eyes tell a story she is not yet ready to say out loud.